Hi, my name is Barry Gower and I'm a prosthetic makeup designer for film and television. So being a prosthetic makeup designer, I'm basically responsible for the practical special makeup effects, creating character makeups and fantasy characters, and we do an awful lot of trauma and blood and gore as well. I design a lot of the looks for the makeups, and I'm responsible for various parts and various little departments along the way. With almost every project, when we're approached about work, we're usually given the script, or if it's a TV show, we're given an outline of the whole series, and we'll basically sit and read through, break down what might be practical, what might be digital, and we would basically then have meetings with directors and producers, talk about the characters and see what they think is probably going to be in camera, what work might be done post editorial.
I mean, there are some directors who know exactly what they want, or they've got a specific idea in mind, or maybe they've worked with a concept designer who's come up with some stuff, and you're basically just making it, where you get given a design, you just make it. If it's something like a gory effect, you don't tend to need to do designs. If it's more of a creature or something like Night King, then that will have been designed, or they've done some sketches, or they've done some illustrations.
We would start the design process with concept designs, and sometimes we do maquettes, clay maquettes, which we can show them a three-dimensional sculpture.
Once they like the look of it, then costume are involved, and then other departments are involved. But in the initial instance, it's usually just Barry sending messages, having meetings with the director to decide what they want.
For each of these characters, which has quite extensive prosthetic makeups, they're all bespoke to that actor or that stunt performer, and it involves quite a lengthy process from the design to the sculpture and all the production of the actual prosthetics to then the application on set each day.
So the first thing we do is life cast an actor, most commonly a head, but it can be any body part or a full body. I'd generally lead that, and then we'd get a plaster out of that, which would go to the sculptors. They sculpt their makeup on it, and in the meantime I'll get another plaster out of the life cast mould and make a splayed core. So this is a sculpt on a core. This is the epoxy cores we make for them. You can see it's all laminated with fiberglass on the back. This has been made from a section of the actor's face that I've cast out in plaster. This is a back and side of a head with an ear on it. The sculptor's already put the sculpt on it, and I'm just starting to mould it now. So the first thing we do is cover it with a layer of alginate and then wet tissue to protect it. The next thing will be putting a layer of clay on top of this, and then I'll divide it into sections with steel shim, which is really thin sheet steel, and then I'll fiberglass the whole thing. We'll drill bolt holes in it so it can be bolted back down to the core, trim it, take it all off, then we'd clean the clay out, put the empty fiberglass back on, and then the space where the clay was we fill with silicone, and that's the final mould for the piece.
So you're essentially pouring it into the tube, and where it's higher than the lowest point, is that all right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just basically a gravity feed
So the pressure of all the silicone in the tube forces it through the mould, and then it goes out into all the small points of the sculpt, so it fills the mould and creates a cavity just full of silicone, and that's what creates the silicone that's then applied to an actor's face. So that's an impression of someone's stomach, the mould there, and then the outside of the mould has a silicone jacket which has a sculpt on it, so as the void fills with the silicone, it creates that shape with the silicone, and that tone there is the same tone that's going to be coming out when we demould it.
This is the stuff we blend off when we're applying it as a makeup.
The frilly edges here is what you hold on to, then you glue it down, and then you dissolve the edge so it's completely seamless, so you don't see any of that there, it just looks like it's gradiating into the skin.
These are all the different components, the different appliances that make up a complete set of Night King appliances for his makeup. So it's sculpted as a whole, but we separate it for sort of ease of application. The neck appliance is a little bit like a sock, which slips over and covers the entire neck all the way around. We have, this is a back of head appliance with the horns we have on the top there. Then we have a forehead appliance with the horns as well. These both overlap. And then we've got a facial appliance, which is sort of nose and cheeks all in one. And then we have earpieces and a separate little chin appliance as well.
The reason we separate the sculpts is to make it easier to mould and run. Because if you imagine trying to run the whole head, it'd just be impossible. It'd be a mask essentially. So the idea of breaking the makeup down is kind of easier for all departments, you know, so it's easier to mould, run, stick on, stuff like that. There'll be an order of putting this on. Generally, you'll do the neck first for sure.
So it'll be the neck, and then once that's on, you've got a back of head, so that sits on.
If you can imagine, sort of, you put a chin on before the face, and then these edges will sit over the top of this edge.
So there's a nice overlap.
Yeah, so you're kind of covering edges with other edges that all blend on. It all kind of.
It's making it delicate enough that it's seamless, but also durable enough that you can still handle it and still apply it without it falling to bits at the same time, so it's a bit of a tight